Look, this seems to be an ongoing tactic. We talk about this ad nauseum, don't we? The Chinese are just making things tough for us right now.
The Chinese are making things difficult for us. I think we know why. Our telephone lines are open to our Prime Minister, to our Minister for Trade. We are more than willing to talk, but one thing that we won't do, and the Prime Minister's made this exceptionally clear, is we do not compromise on our values and our fundamental principles. And so that is where there is a difference, but that should not impact our trade. That should be a matter of genuine dialogue. But the Chinese dictatorship has cancelled the human rights dialogue that we used to have now for the last 5 or so years.
Senator Abetz, often we talk about the need for diversification away from China, whether it's, agriculture, whether it's iron ore, whether it's coal. Do we need to find a new buyer for some of these particular trade sectors? Do we rely on them too much, do you think?
There is no doubt that the old saying, don't have all your eggs in the one basket, makes good sense. Life experience tells you that, and I think some sectors in particular are starting to discover that in relation to their over-dependence on China. But look, that said, China only trades with us and we trade with China because it makes good sense for both countries. China doesn't buy our wine or our barley or coal or iron ore because they like us. They buy it because it's a high-quality product, we have reliability of supply, and we have a reasonable price on the commodity. So when they put these sort of trade sanctions on us, they are in fact cutting off their nose to spite their face, and they are in fact occasioning difficulty to their own Chinese citizens, and that is why this dictatorship's behaviour, belligerent as it is doing their own people a great disservice.
Interestingly, Senator Abetz, the outgoing US ambassador to Australia, was very critical yesterday of the Chinese in the way in which he said they were trying to bully Australia. It's great to see that in the last remnants of the Trump administration, we're getting some support from the United States in that area.
There is no doubt that the US ambassador's comments are right. His Excellency's observations are there for all to see. But might I add, Australia is not the only country having this sort of behaviour toward them. The Czech Republic's speaker recently visited Taiwan. As a result, complications for Czech trade. Recently, I understand the Human Rights Committee of the Canadian Parliament made certain findings that it was genocide, that which the dictatorship was inflicting on the Uyghurs. As a result, issues with Canada. Now, this is the sort of behaviour you expect from a belligerent dictatorship, and that is why I have long called for all the freedom-loving countries of the world to come together and say to this dictatorship, enough is enough. And if you don't want to, for example, buy Australian barley, guess what? None of us will supply you with barley, as a result of which you can explain to your people why they can no longer drink beer, as an example. I think it's time for the freedom-loving countries of the world to say, we want to trade with you, we want to embrace your economy and your people, but the behaviour of your dictatorship is such that it is unacceptable. Keeping in mind, Peter, that we've got 1 million people of their own citizens in concentration camps. We've got Falun Gong practitioners, house Christians, pro-democracy people, all imprisoned because of their certain views, which would be fully acceptable in our society. So completely vast differentiations between our two societies. And might I add, I am strongly of the view that the Chinese people are just as freedom-loving as you and I are. What they're being or having inflicted upon them is a dictatorship which does not respect fundamental basic human rights. And as a freedom-loving country, we have a duty and an obligation to champion the cause of the oppressed, which are the Uyghurs, the Falun Gong practitioners, the House Christians, the pro-democracy movement, be it the Mongolians, the Tibetans, and so the list goes on. This is a regime that is restricting its peoples, and we do need to speak out on behalf of the oppressed. And let's be very clear, you can't really be on the side of the oppressed unless you're willing to call out the oppressor. That is what Australia's doing. That is what His Excellency, the outgoing ambassador from the United States, has done as well. And I thank him for his very good commentary in that regard.
Eric, a lot of people would agree with you on that particular comment. Just quickly, the War Memorial has entered into the Brereton Report debate, suggesting that it would include the damning findings from that report. Do you believe that it's overstepped the mark?
That's a decision for the War Memorial to make. I suppose it's the lawyer within me, and I think it's a hallmark of the civilization that we enjoy as a society, that we actually do believe and hold up as a principle, innocent until proven guilty. And until somebody is convicted, then I think the presumption of innocence needs to prevail. Then you also have to ask, just because one, two, or a number of people within an organisation have misbehaved, does that mean you then throw out the whole lot, condemn the whole lot, or do you say that there were certain people that did not live up to the standards expected of them?
Sure.
And the vast bulk of our servicemen and women in this particular regiment, in fact, did uphold all the fundamental principles that we believe in. And just because a couple let us down does not mean that we condemn the whole regiment.
Senator Eric Abetz, always a pleasure to have you on Sky News Across Australia. Thanks for joining us tonight.
And a pleasure from my part. Thanks a lot.